Hello, Recapped Mystery here. Welcome back. Today, I'm going to explain a drama, crime, biography film, extremely wicked. Watch out and take care. Liz sits in a dreary room on one side of a window, a phone on her left. She is seen Ted, her old lover, in a prison when he is brought in on the opposite side by a guard. His handcuffs are removed, and he sits down to speak with Liz. She inquires of Ted whether he recalls the first night they met. Liz is seated in a pub with her friend Joanna several years ago. Liz chastises Joe for choosing a college bar, and she expresses her dissatisfaction with being a single mother. Joe shifts her gaze to Ted, who is sitting a short distance away, looking at her and smiling. Ted eventually drives her home after they flirt by the jukebox and slow dance at the bar. Liz's babysitter rushes out the door, stating that she needs to get home. Liz tells Ted after she's gone that she understands if he doesn't want to come inside because of the baby. He claims to be unconcerned. They check on Molly, the child, and then retire to bed. Liz wakes up alone in her bed the next morning and realizes Molly is not in her cot. She panics and hurries into the kitchen, where Ted is preparing breakfast for them and Molly is nicely seated in her high chair. As Molly grows older, the trio spends the next many years together, sharing birthdays and holidays. There's a news report about the finding of multiple dead and missing women, and the suspect is a man who claims to be injured and begs ladies to assist him put stuff into his car. Ted is driving down the street late at night when he gets stopped by a police officer. He gets out of the car and tries to persuade the officer that he is a law student from Utah who is just wanting to get back home to his sweetheart. The officer is unmoved and arrests Ted for running several stop signs. While he is in detention, a woman who has recently been abused chooses him from a lineup. The cops also check his car and discover various suspicious items. He gets summoned to court. When he returns home, Liz is furious with him. His images are all over the news, and she is furious that he hasn't told her what's going on. That night, they go out to dinner with Molly, and Ted tries to explain everything. He informs her that his photograph was supplied to the girl accusing him prior to the lineup, and that his name was submitted to the police. He believes he is being set up. Ted points out the diner window at the parked car on the street and informs Liz that the car has been following him since he returned to town. He tells Liz that he'll be up late that night at the library working on his case. Liz carefully searches through his suitcase while he's gone. When Ted arrives at the library, a girl studying nearby recognizes him from the photographs in the newspapers and alerts security personnel. He is ejected from the library and notices the same suspicious vehicle parked outside. As he tries to approach the driver, the automobile drives away, forcing him to finish his studies at home. Liz joins him in court and observes the woman testifying against him. Ted's lawyer cross-examines her and invalidates the majority of her testimony by demonstrating that the cops provided her too much information and appeared to train her. Ted and Liz go to an animal shelter to choose a dog. They stumble across one of Ted's former co-workers, Carol, who flirts openly with Ted in front of Liz, making her envious. She informs Ted that she knows he did not conduct any of the crimes he is accused of and that she will always support him. Liz and Ted visit several of the dogs after saying goodbye to Carol, but they don't appear to like him, barking and growling at him. They go home and drink, daydreaming about their future together and sharing an intimate moment. Ted is arrested at the next court session Liz attends with him. When he arrives in the prison, he is compelled to empty his pockets and change into prison garb. Ted contacts Liz shortly after and assures her that everything will be fine. Everything was a misunderstanding. Liz expresses her desire to pay him a visit. While Liz is at work, detectives contact her and notify her that Ted is also being investigated for crimes committed in Colorado. This irritates her considerably, and she instructs the investigator not to call her at work again and hangs up. Ted analyzes his case file in prison, attempting to prepare for impending court hearings. Ted is confronted by a detective who confronts him about his presence in Colorado, and he is defensive. He informs the detective that he has never gone to Colorado. Ted is later challenged with the incident by his lawyer. Ted had traveled to Colorado, and the detective had his gas slips as proof. Thus the detective caught him in a lie. Detectives from neighboring states have expressed an interest in Ted's case, and they are reviewing all of their open investigations and comparing them to his. Ted's lawyer informs him that he is not licensed in Colorado and that he must find a new lawyer. Ted gets arrested and sent to the county jail in Colorado. Liz drinks with her friend Joe at her house and they talk about Ted's condition. Shortly into the conversation, Joe expresses her doubts that Ted is innocent. Liz is offended and kicks Joe out before going to cry alone in the shower. Ted phones Liz at work the next day to inform her that he has been approved to serve as co-counsel in his own case. He has his own office and unlimited phone access. She tells him she isn't in the mood to talk and then hangs up. He returns her call multiple times, and when he is able to keep her on the line, he tells her about a book he has been reading. It's about a man who is falsely convicted of a crime and must go through a series of difficult trials, yet he never loses hope throughout the process. Liz tells him to call her later that evening at home. Ted gets returned to prison without bail during his pre-trial. The opposing party makes it apparent that they will seek the death sentence. Ted phones Liz from jail to inform her of what has occurred. Liz hangs up on him, and he is astonished and disappointed to find that she will not be attending the trial. Ted is questioned by reporters while in prison about what it's like to be an innocent man locked away in prison with no one believing him. He plays it up for the camera in an attempt to evoke public sympathy while maintaining his innocence. Liz sits at home, somberly watching the interview. Officers prepare him for the trial. Soon after arrival, he asks whether he can use the phone to call Liz during playtime. The officer on duty is interrupted while flirting with a woman who has come to observe the trial. He leads Ted to the office, where the phone is stored. Ted pretends to call Liz and converse on the phone with her. When the cop is confident Ted is not engaging in any suspicious behavior, he leaves him alone and returns to flirt with the woman. When Ted is left alone, he sees an opportunity to flee. He climbs out the office window and leaps into the courtyard, garnering the attention of numerous civilians nearby. He goes around a few corners before changing clothes in an alley. One of the women who witnessed him jump from the window calls the cops and tells them where he was going. Liz watches the news broadcasts about Ted's escape on television. Joe comes over to talk about Ted's position again, and they debate on whether or not he would try to return home to Liz. Joe admits to Liz that she has been drinking too much and that she is tormenting herself by not letting Ted go yet. She informs Liz that she is in denial and that she must move on. Ted gets apprehended in the mountains and returned to prison. Liz pays him a visit and attempts to convey the gravity of the issue to him. In addition to the other counts against him, he will now face further penalties for fleeing. Ted hands Liz the book he was explaining to her in the courtroom and asks if she has lost faith in him. She tells him she can't take it any longer. Ted begins to fear and assures her that he can escape again and that they can flee together to begin a new life. Liz departs, handing Ted a drawing of a shark done by Molly. While Ted hangs Molly's artwork over his bed in his cell, Liz takes his photo from a frame at her work desk, places it between the pages of the book Ted gave her, and places it in her desk drawer. Jerry, one of her co-workers, flirts with her in the break room and talks about lunch and the holidays. Ted writes Liz a letter in which he tells her that he can live without her and begins planning his next getaway. He gets a job at the prison using power tools and brings a piece of equipment back to his cell. While other inmates are showering, his cell is noisy enough for him to saw at the ceiling without anybody knowing. He rises up into the ceiling after breaking through the hole he created. Liz is watching the news about Ted's escape when a detective knocks on her door. He warns her that if she does not notify him if Ted attempts to contact her, she would be in big trouble. He exits, handing her an envelope with Ted's case file. Ted, a newly liberated man, goes out drinking in college pubs and flirts with various girls. The girls, along with several others in adjoining dorms, were killed, according to television reports the next day. Ted is traveling alone at night when he gets stopped by a police officer. He panics, but shortly recovers. He gets out of the car to approach the officer, and when questioned for his license and registration, he pretends to be hunting for his wallet and strikes the officer. He takes off running. Liz takes a phone call from Ted while Joe, Liz, and Molly play cards. He informs her that he has been apprehended once more and is now in Florida. Liz hangs up and returns to her game. The local sheriff pays Ted a visit once he has settled into his new jail. He states unequivocally that he intends to condemn Ted and informs him that he will not be able to fool him. The sheriff enlists the help of some of his co-workers to photograph Ted's teeth. The sheriff decides to read Ted's indictment in front of the press, but Ted sees it as an opportunity to gain public sympathy. He addresses the press about his mistreatment in prison and how he hasn't been permitted to tell his side of the story. He accuses the sheriff of attempting to use his case to secure his re-election. In front of the cameras, he tears up the indictment and is led away. He calls Liz several times, but she does not respond. Instead, he resolves to contact Carol, the woman he saw while at the animal shelter with Liz. Carol pays him a visit in prison, and Ted informs her about how he is being treated unfairly. She sympathizes with him and expresses her willingness to relocate to Florida in order to support him and assist him in winning his case. Liz eventually gets around to reading the book Ted gave her for Christmas. Jerry pays her an unexpected visit, bringing her soup and saying that he assumed she was sick because she had been absent from work for so long. She welcomes him inside. Ted's new lawyer reveals himself as Ted is having a visitation with Carol. Ted expresses his willingness to share any information concerning the situation with Carol. His attorney informs him that his case will be the first televised trial in history, and that the court wishes to reach an agreement. In exchange for his confession, they will forego the death penalty and instead sentence him to life in prison. He refuses angrily and dismisses the lawyers. Carol is distressed and offers to assist him in telling his story. She tells Ted that she went to the animal sanctuary in Utah just to visit him. The seats during Ted's trial are primarily packed with giggling young girls eager to see Ted. Liz is at home watching the trial. Carol is interviewed by the press, and she recalls certain words Ted had taught her to say in order to get compassion from the public. Ted calls Liz again one night, but she is sound sleeping on the couch with Jerry. Jerry gets up from the couch and switches off the phone. Jerry can tell Liz is still in love with Ted by the way she observes the trials. Carol organizes an intervention for Ted, asking his mother and lawyers to visit him in his cell and implore him to accept the settlement offered by the court. They do not want him to perish. He admits to thinking about it and lashes out at Carol for orchestrating the whole thing. He orders that she never do anything similar again. Later in court, Ted is going to announce that he will accept the plea bargain, but instead uses the chance to chastise his lawyers in front of the entire court, accusing them of incompetence and failing to do their jobs. He fires his lawyers and takes charge of his own case. He is quite captivating in court, as well as successful and popular with the public. Ted phones Liz the next day, but Jerry answers. Jerry informs Ted that he is no longer able to contact Liz. Ted requests that Jerry tell Liz one more thing. He loves her. Jerry becomes enraged and hangs up the phone. Liz gets a flashback montage from her time with Ted, experiencing all of the times she was most in love with him. Ted pays a guard to spend a private time with Carol in the jail corridor behind a vending machine. Carol detects something strange about him after they finish and accuses him of still being in love with Liz. Ted assures her that he is not and suggests that they marry. He fills her ears with daydreams about their future. Ted calls Carol as a witness in court and proposes to her while she is on the stand. She accepts, and Ted informs the audience that in the state of Florida, a couple is legally married if they exchange vows in front of a judge in a court of law. Liz and Jerry are watching the news when they notice this display. Liz confronts Jerry about turning off the phones at night and failing to notify her when Ted calls. He assures her that he is merely doing what he believes will help her get over him. She is in denial and must let Ted go. Liz attempts to kick Jerry out of the house, but he calms her down. Liz admits that she feels bad about Ted's condition because she was the one who gave the police Ted's identity when the first few females went missing. Jerry reassures her that she did the right thing and that she should not feel responsible for Ted's behavior. Ted is interviewed in his cell with Carol after both Ted and the state prosecutor make their closing statements in court. He is summoned back to court to hear the jury's decision, but Carol asks him to stay for a few moments so she may tell him something vital. Caroline informs Ted that she is expecting his kid. Ted is found guilty of all charges and sentenced to death. He attempts one more appeal to the judge, but is shot down and returned to prison. Liz and Jerry are relieved as they watch the decision. Liz discards all of her alcohol. Later, after Liz has been promoted, She is interrupted during an interview with a new employee by the delivery of a letter. She sends the girl away to read the letter alone. Ted's letter tries to reassure her that everything will be fine. He claims he will plead guilty to buy himself some time. Liz pays Ted a visit the day before his execution. She begs him to tell her the truth, to admit what he's done so she may be at peace. She informs him that he has been torturing her for years with this and that she deserves to know the truth. Ted initially denies any wrongdoing, but later reveals what he's done to Liz. Liz storms out of the room, distraught, and a detective takes her place in the chair to question Ted. Liz exits the prison and goes to the car, where Molly and Jerry are waiting for her. Please subscribe to assist the channel, turn on notification and leave a like. Thank you for taking the time to watch. See you again soon.